Alright, hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jessica. Today I'm filming eyeshadows that I am nostalgic about. So yeah, I feel like, well, personally, okay, how do I frame this? I was looking through my collection the other day and I was just looking at my eyeshadow palettes and I just had like this overwhelming feeling, and I think part of this is because I've recently moved out of San Francisco back to my mom's place for the time being until I can like move out and get settled once COVID's a little bit more calmed down and I get a job anyways. And I don't know, I feel like with the changes of everything, all the changes going on, I was just really taking comfort in looking at my collection, not even playing with it, but like looking at my collection and finding comfort in different eyeshadow palettes. For some reason, I feel like I get nostalgic with eyeshadow palettes or eyeshadows versus like lip products or anything like that. I do have a couple of products that I feel a little nostalgic about. However, at the moment, I can't find one of them. And the other one, I did declutter because although it was like a time where it was Becca's Champagne Pop. It was a time where it was like, oh, like this was exciting, you know, whenever all that went down. Because I think I got it like the second time it launched or whatever. And yeah, but I do know that I actually decluttered that and I passed that along to a friend who has a deeper skin tone than me. And as much as I loved that product and I did like think it was pretty, it just looked way better on her. She used it one night like getting ready and it looked phenomenal. So I was like, here, take it. Like this is mood for you. So yeah. Anyways, let's talk about eyeshadows. So the first thing I'm going to bring up are the Naked palettes. So originally, I believe, so my one friend who was living with me and my parents at the time, she had this Naked 2 palette, and I remember her always pulling it out. This is before any of my palettes. I never had a single eyeshadow palette. I think I had like a couple quads or trios or something from MAC, but it was before I knew about eyeshadow palettes. And honestly, this was a while after palettes started to get, you know, more exciting. But she had the Naked 2 palette, and I remember she had like a couple shades already gone from it, and I was like watching her get ready and I was like, oh my gosh, what if one day you finish it? So yes, I was even thinking about Pan that palette before there was even I even knew about Pan that palette or had a problem with finishing makeup. So yeah, she had this and I thought all the colors in there were beautiful. So then one day I broke down and I bought it as well because it's so beautiful and all that cool tone, beautifulness, love it. So yeah, I bought this and then I went out afterwards and I was like, well, I need Naked 1, the starting part of the, you know, collection, have every part of the collection thing. And so I got Naked 1 and I remember bringing it home being like, look, I bought the Naked 1 because, yeah, I had to. Obviously had to, didn't have to. And she was like, okay, it was around Christmas time. She was like, whatever you do, don't buy anymore. And I was like, okay. And so she ended up giving me the Naked 3 from Christmas, which was super, super kind. And here we go. I have hardly touched any of these. Like, it was basically, these were the catalyst of all the eyeshadow palette collecting mentality. Obviously, it kicked in pretty quickly. I had Naked 2 and then all of a sudden I was like, well, I need Naked 1. And then came Naked 3. And I remember around the time Naked Smoky came out, I really wasn't even that interested in it. Like, I kind of wanted it because I was like, well, I have to have it all. And I know dark colors, like, this is beautiful. And I think that there are only like really 3 dark colors and I think they're pretty workable. However, I still get nervous like pulling it out. And I actually have like the looks that I've come up with these, but I didn't need this. I didn't need this at all. I don't really like again, it's one that I never reach for, but that was, you know, the start of it. After that, things started to calm down. I mean, it took a while for like Naked Cherry and Honey and all that to come out, but I haven't gotten any of those. Although my mom does have Naked Cherry and I'm definitely eyeing it like, hey, but it's gonna be a long time before I like dive back into the Urban Decay palettes. But those are really nostalgic for me. Around that same time, I started going into the chocolate bar palettes. Now, this chocolate bar palette, First of all, Too Faced just does it. I was looking at a lot of the Too Faced stuff, like even the Sweet Tea bronzer. I have like the Peach Blaney blush. It's like, again, in that heart-shaped packaging, that there's just something about, and like the chocolate bronzer, chocolate soleil bronzer. There's something about Too Faced that just gets me. Even like around Christmas time, like all their stuff, it just gets me. And now I know that they're problematic, and I'm definitely, especially with the times right now, I'm definitely like pulling back from them. Yeah, I just think that as a company, they need to do better. Like their representatives need to do better. So yeah, but that being said, their packaging is very like kitschy, which, you know, some people can say tacky, but I think especially around the holiday time, like there's like that kitschy, you know, Christmas type feel. So I feel like it's acceptable for some reason. And the smells like, you know, like your brain is, memory is attached to smell, or smells attached to memory, or whatever. So yeah, because these have scents, like they're great. And I love this palette. I have played with this, I think, the most out of all the palettes that I have from them. And this one is beautiful. I, again, got into that collector's mentality. I went for the Too Faced sweet, semi-sweet. And this one is gorgeous as well. I do like that it's a little bit warmer toned. I have like considered decluttering it, but at the same time, I can't yet. And this right here is that pink sugar shade. I crushed it out because it was just, I did not know how to use it. And it was getting like brown. It was supposed to be like a light pink shimmery, and it was getting like brown from the other like fallouts of the shade. And so this is the Chocolate Bonbon. Again, I think that this is like my second favorite. This is so beautiful. Maybe my first favorite. I'm not quite sure, but I haven't used it as much as the first chocolate bar. But I love like the bright pink shades. I love this green shade. This shade right here, it is the Cafe Oolong. That one is so pretty as well. It looks like it have more of a dip in it, but I just like dug my finger into it, opening it by accident. But yeah, this is another one that's really, really pretty as well. And then came around the Sweet Peach palette. I remember I was watching Zoella, and she was just recommending the you-know-what out of this palette, and I was like, oh, I have to have this. And by the time she like recommended it, I think it was already sold out, and then they restocked it. So here we go, Sweet Peach palette. Again, used it lightly because I was basically getting a palette a week at that point from Sephora, which is terrible, but that's just, I fell into it. I fell into consumerism. And I think these are nostalgic for me because around this time, this is whenever getting a new palette was exciting, because it was like a new opportunity. I had nothing else in my collection, or very little else in my collection, that was yeah, exciting to me, that like gave me opportunity, all of that. I also have this MAC blue brown pigment because it's the famous blue brown pigment, and yeah, still a little nostalgic about that, because I remember like MAC was where I got my first makeup. You know, I went and did the whole makeup the makeover thing with an artist, and it was fun. Their foundations, everything broke me out, which was also fun. So I stopped using that very quickly, but I still love their eyeshadows. I remember the whole MAC counter experience, so that also gave me kind of nostalgia. I feel like there wasn't anything like truly nostalgic about MAC for me, where I was like, oh, that's like that one thing that I loved, at least from eyeshadow, except for the blue brown pigment, because it's kind of like the famous pigment. It's like the duochrome, so it's exciting. It like had a moment in the past, you know? The next thing that I have is the Kylie Cosmetics Burgundy palette. Again, this is another kind of problematic brand, but here we go. I love this. This was like new. I remember when I like got this, I was justified. I don't have any colors like this, and I didn't at the time, but then shortly after I got the Modern Renaissance palette, and like literally a couple days after I got the Modern Renaissance palette, you know, yeah, it was that bad at that time. But this is beautiful, and now I feel like I'm a little bit more nostalgic towards this because I've panned the Modern Renaissance palette, and this actually is the only palette in my collection that I can think of off the top of my head that has this color story, and concisely has this color story. The other palette is the Tartelette in Bloom palette. Again, problematic company, but here we go. Look at that. Nice and reflective. But this was the hit back in the day. I remember they had the Tartlet, I think it was just called Tartlet, and then they had this Tartlet in Bloom. I was starting to get out of like the Tartlet, like the collection mentality around this time, which is good. But I remember my mom has the Tartlet, and I've always been like, Mom, you want to give that to me? You want to like pass that on? And she doesn't. She actually uses it, so that's good. But you know, it's that collector mentality of like, well, I have the Tartlet in Bloom, I should have like the first one, the Tartlet, and then also the Tartlet Fire, I think, right? Is that the third one? I don't know. But clearly I was not needing that. The next palette I have here is the Studio On The Go eyeshadow palette, and I think this is their Cool Down palette. I can't tell where it is, but it's their Cool Tone palette, and this is nostalgic for me because this is the first palette I received in BoxyCharm. But yes, look at that. It's so pretty. And again, at the time I was like, oh, this is the only Cool Tone palette I have. Not true, because I had the Urban Decay Naked 2 and then Naked 3 as well. Naked 3 is a little bit warmer tone, but like it has those soft pinks that this one does. So yeah, it's nostalgic because of that, because it was my first time with BoxyCharm, and BoxyCharm again was the thing to get. And I mean, it kind of still is, you know, a lot of people like it, but it was like this new best subscription box. I had it for like 2 years, you know, it was like really exciting at the time. This was a great first like box that I got. So yeah, the last one I have is the Jaclyn Hill Morphe palette. I got this on the second round of the restock, just before like the third round where they like changed everything about it. But here we go. It's fairly used. And you know what, like I will say about this, I didn't use this anytime, but like in quarantine, but I did pack this. So there was a minute where I was living up in San Francisco, finishing up school. They called, you know, school was going to be out, everything was going to be online, quarantine was setting into place, and so I came back home to be with family and have quarantine with my family. And so in that time, I brought all my Project Pan stuff, and then I brought this palette and like a couple other like little things that I brought. I never used it, I just used my Project Pan stuff, but I think it says something that I brought this palette because I brought this because I was like, well, I don't want to get bored. I won't be able to like, I don't want to like try and like buy anything. Like, we can't do that. Like, not that I would run out of eyeshadow because it's going to take forever for me to finish any eyeshadow. But I wanted to make sure that like I had something that I could play around with. And again, I didn't play around with it, but I think it is telling that this is what I brought. This is the biggest palette in my collection, 35 shades. So yeah, and there's a fair amount of color, especially a fair amount of color for me because I don't usually play with color. I mean, like one green is great, a couple blues, or 3 blues, 2 aqua shades, I guess, and a purple, like that's enough color. And then the rest of these I kind of find like warm tones. I feel like, although there are colorful warm tones, I feel like warm tones for me are a little bit like warm neutral. I feel like they're more accessible to me. But anyways, so yeah, these are all my eyeshadow palettes that I just find nostalgic. I look at them and I remember when I got them. This is like when makeup was exciting for me and not feeling like a bit of a burden, or not like, oh my gosh, I have to use all this up. I know part of that is like the stress that I put on myself, where it's like you don't actually have to use everything up. However, to be a smart consumer, or like whatever that feeling is, like I do want to use up my makeup as much as I can. I don't want to be wasteful, I think is like the biggest thing. But yeah, this was whenever makeup was exciting, and I kind of can't wait. I think that's the thing, is like I want to get back to a collection that's smaller, to where I like, when I buy something, I'm excited about it and I'm excited to use it, and I know that it's possible for me to get my money's worth, or like get satisfaction out of it, or finish it, or whatever it is that I like want to be doing. I don't know if that will ever happen with eyeshadow palettes, so maybe that's why I'm very connected to these eyeshadow palettes, because they're exciting to me. And this was like kind of like a memory of back in time of like whenever I once was excited about makeup and, you know, getting something. But yeah, I don't know. This is just whenever like kind of a stepping stone as to like also when the industry was like booming and like, you know, it was just starting to pick up, and it was right before like the consumerism was like not that, at least again in my opinion, was not that much of like a hardship or like, yeah, anything like that. Like it was fun to purchase makeup, and it wasn't a burden, which, you know, makeup shouldn't feel that way. And I might be overusing or using the wrong term of burden. Somehow that doesn't quite feel right, because I do get joy when I use my makeup, but at the same time I have a lot of makeup, and even just these palettes in front of me, like this is a lot, and I'm not gonna be able to get through these palettes like anytime soon. So yes, I don't know what I'm gonna be talking about next, but there you go. Do you have any makeup that's nostalgic for you? Let me know in the comments, please. I think that this is fun and exciting, and you know, makeup does bring us joy, which is cool. And yeah, do you have like a special time in your life, like maybe something happened where it was like whatever, the makeup that you had on your wedding day or your first date or whatever it was that you like, you know, you bought or used a palette or like whatever it was, some sort of special connection. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and have a good day. Bye.